Hi, my name is Mike McElwee. I am a student of Dr. Thompson's in his POS301 class, session A. And today I'm going to be going over the article that I've been studying the entire semester, The Differential Effects of Economic Conditions and Racial Attitudes in the Election of Donald Trump by J. Green and S. McElwee. So basically an overview of what was happening. They were taking Democrat, Republican, non-white, white, and non-Trump voters into subgroups, and they're creating gaps that were being found within our economy. But within trying to introduce race into it, they kind of didn't make the charts correct. So phenomenal writers, and they provided awesome evidence, but they also, because of how biased it was, they created gaps in the evidence that made the audience question what was going on or question what was happening. They weren't taking the problem, answering it with this direct solution, or they weren't taking the problem and answering it with the solution of what was happening in our economy. If that kind of makes sense. I'm about to explain it right now. So after the induction of Trump, the major gap that I had found was the time frame that they had used, which was only a year. So the middle of 2016, the middle of 2017. So within that time frame, it wasn't sufficient enough time to provide any necessary evidence that was sufficient enough to create any sort of answer or proven fact that there is racial inequalities within our economy. By that, I'm about to show you a chart. Alright, so right here. You don't really have to see it too much. It's figure 4 is the one for my article. And this is after the NAFTA. Trump had started working with NAFTA to secure better trade agreements against China, which helped our economy tremendously. And it helped in terms of wage discrepancies by not even race, but by social classes, and that's what this chart's about. So you have Trump all the way down here. He's just like a dotted line. He's just a dotted line down here. It goes white, black, Latino, Asian, and other races. Trump voters were down here, and then non-Trump voters were the thick lines that you see here. So Trump, not Trump, non-Trump, Trump, non-Trump, Trump, or I'm sorry, non-Trump, Trump, and that was what was happening. So they saw huge exponential increases in wages by not voting for Trump. But what this article failed to realize was this was Trump's economy. So this was him fixing what had been left off by previous administrations. No fault of Obama or Bush or Clinton, but it was after Nixon's 1977 induction into China's tariffs to start sending jobs, overseas, just cheaper trading, anything like that. It's just started to decline, especially with the rate of inflation. So what was happening was everybody saw increases in wages. Trump voters just generally stuck from the upper class, upper middle class, predominantly, and they saw small wage increases, but this is because they had a hand within the primary and secondary market. So they're already at the top 1% is what we hear all the time. They're already, most of them, up there, from $80,000 up in terms of salary. So with that, they saw small increases in wage and wages, and non-Trump voters saw huge increases in wages. So what happened here was everybody benefited from the economy, and what they were trying to prove was that non-Trump voters see generally better wages than Trump voters. It just didn't make any sense. I really tried to find what they were trying to prove, and it just wasn't sufficient enough evidence to back what they had, and it just wasn't a large enough time frame. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but from here I just didn't see anything that was pointing to real sufficient enough evidence. So with that being said, my methodology that I would use, or my measures, operationalization and measurements, would be to take the Obama administration, take Obama's second term and Trump's first term, and study racial inequalities and the economic wages or wage disparities. In this instant, I would take wage trends by race and study them. Even though race is kind of a touchy subject, especially today because it's still prevalent, but it's dying off. So with that, I would take 25, I would take single voters throughout the country and put them into subgroups of 50 people. So 25 Trump, 25 non-Trump voters. And in this case, I would not use race as a factor at all. Then I would identify the wage trends that they had found within voting habits by taking 4 different groups of the biggest cities in each state at random, and would I believe that this would be sufficient enough evidence to provide enough information that would prove my hypothesis that to be true, which is who saw the most wage growth or salary growth or most benefit in our economy in terms of voting habits, or left-wing, right-wing, or Trump or non-Trump voters. And I would create patterns by charts like what they're using right here to find out if that was the truth, if that had happened. So just to base everything off of race, I believe that they would have been able to find a more logical solution to wage growths instead of taking race into consideration with this. So they took non-Trump and Trump voters by race, and it didn't make any sense. The economy isn't discriminating in any way that I see, even by their evidence, and that's what they were trying to prove. So my analysis wouldn't be racial inequalities, but it would be voters, basically Republican and Democrat voters, or voters of Trump, or voters of not Trump. But if I was going to take that large time frame, I would take Republican and Democrat voters. So yeah, that would be enough to find out who's benefiting from the economy and who isn't. But other than that, racial factors that were being considered in this study didn't help their hypothesis, and didn't prove it in any way. I just left a lot of open-ended questions. But that's all I was going to say about this article, and thanks for listening, guys.